We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here at TFS. That foreign show.
ADR Networks presenta.
This is Celestine Angel.
And I'm Isaac Crouch.
And this is...
Foreign show. On that foreign show.
Yes, y'all. It's Friday. It's 3 p.m. It's that foreign show.
What's up, people? I'm Celestine Angel.
I'm Isaac Rakesh.
And we're here on ADR Networks.
Activating your senses. Yes. All right. So today's show, kicking things off.
Insider.
Yes.
Okay. So the Insider is a segment where we introduce different things that our foreign friends here can partake in. So we have a friend who's also a foreigner. He's Korean, Argentinian. Actually, racially he's Korean, but he was born in Argentina, and he's a dancer, tattoo artist, full-blown artist in a lot of degrees. And basically what we're going to introduce today is his tattooing business. So right now at this point, he is actually giving away free tattoos, hence the Dead Insider segment. He is contactable on his Instagram, which let me get Arthur to put it up. So basically, he is contactable in Elche Corre.
There we go.
All right, so Elche Korean Tattoo. And you can see all his designs here. He is really good and he is very hardworking. Seriously, he practices on fake skin. Actually, that's what I remember he calls it.
Is it big skin?
I don't know. Well, we will ask him when he comes on the program because he's going to come too. I haven't set it up the episode with him, but he's coming for sure.
That's a video right there of him doing a piece. That looks pretty dope, right? A lion piece.
Yeah, it is dope. Like I have seen his artwork and look at that.
Wow.
So this is on the fake skin and yeah, it's really, really good work. So I'm very happy to introduce. Plus right now, like I said, he's giving away free tattoo work. So it's completely free. Just contact him and see. I mean, it's limited. I'm not sure when he will stop. So contact him on Instagram. Tell him that you heard this on That Foreign Show and see if he is still doing it. I'm pretty sure it's still on. Stay.
Get yourself inked.
Get your inks. We have no inks, so I don't know what we are talking about, but we really appreciate inks.
We're kind of ink free, but then we appreciate good art when we see it. And dude's an artist for sure.
I mean, dude's a real artist. We hang out with him, we talk to him. He's like all about being a real artist, and so you're gonna get an experience. That's what I would say. Okay, and before our guest arrives, I think she's not here yet, but we just want to do a quick Dia de Muertos chat because guest is here, but let's do something real quick. So Isaac went to Misquick yesterday, which is like the place of inspiration for like cocoa and all that. I think we mentioned this in our previous episodes. Yeah, and we are going to do content coverage on our Instagram page. Isaac will be basically guiding you all through his experience in Misquick. It's very interesting.
Showing you guys what it feels like to be there. It was really special. Yeah, to be really honest, it was really special. The whole thing, you'll see in the video the Coco reference thing of the altar, but this is like an altar, like supersized, and that involves the church and the cemetery and everything, and candles and everyone just being in that kind of solemn but relaxed, patient kind of vibe, of reflection, that the end of the year or Dia de Muertos, it's one of the things that kind of inspires us to do, just kind of take a moment and reflect about these topics, as heavy as they might seem.
Right. So this is the Dia de Muertos weekend. There's going to be a lot of parties going on. While partying, which I mean, you take the highs and the lows together, right? So I mean, okay, not calling it a low, but like reflection, inner and outer. Okay, so more that. Sorry. Okay, because here in Mexico, it's not like death is taken really sacredly. It's actually a really interesting thing to think about. And while you're here, it's one of the spiritual aspects of Mexican culture and all that. So
yes.
All right. So let's invite our guest on. Her name is Ryman Sneed.
Welcome to the show, Ryman Sneed.
Hi.
Hi. Are we pronouncing your name right? Could you? Is it Ryman or Ryman or
Ryman?
Ryman. Okay. Yeah, you're our first Ryman. We've never met anyone else with your name.
I think I'm one of very few in the world, to be honest.
Right? Yeah. And even your surname, like we have not like met anyone with your name before. So
Well, welcome to the show. I'm
Thank
Isaac
you, guys.
Celestine. Yep,
It's so nice to meet
So-
you.
same.
nice to meet you. So Ryman, you are an actress as well as an acting teacher,
Yeah.
and you've been doing that like for a long time, right? Like, and you have lot of experience teaching and all that, like from what I read on the description, on Facebook.
So yeah, I moved to Mexico about 5 years ago from New York City. And in New York, I was a working actor. And I then started teaching and coaching on the side. And then when I moved to Mexico, I originally moved to Tulum. I kind of left the business behind, honestly. I was kind of like just ready to get out of the city and, pursue a different sort of life for a little bit. And I moved to Tulum and was working in like the plant medicine space there and the wellness spaces. And then my partner and I opened up a business. Actually, we opened up a food truck. And then COVID happened. Yeah, it was really cool. But then COVID happened. So we ended up closing the food truck and we decided to move here. And then when we got back here, I sort of found acting again. And I realized that there was work for me here. So it was kind of by accident because I booked a film pretty quickly after I got to Mexico City. And then it was through that film that I got my agent and I met other actors and I started realizing like, there's work for me here. There's other English speaking actors. There's a community of us here. So then after a couple of years of being here, I realized, there's not really an acting class for English speaking actors. Like I speak Spanish, but I wouldn't really teach acting in Spanish. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's sort of it's hard to teach acting if it's not your native language or if it's not necessarily a language that you're like working in. Like I'm not working in Spanish. When I get hired, I work in English. And those people who are like me, who want to work, are probably going to be booked for work speaking in English. So I decided, there's not really a class for us here. So we have a class and we actually have we have several native Spanish speakers in the class who want to just take class in English. So that's also really cool.
Right. And so do you also guide them, like, if they want to get better in their American accent, sometimes they require that for roles, right?
Yeah, definitely. So like right now, the first class that we did ended up being like mostly beginners, which was really interesting for me to kind of have to go back to the beginning of my training and kind of like back to basics. But I've actually really enjoyed it. I found it really cool to, people who really have never taken an acting class before and they just want to like know what the basics are and just kind of get their feet wet. But definitely some of my coaching has been more with people who are like, look, I have an audition. I'm supposed to have an American accent. I've done a lot of corporate coaching. So people who aren't even actors, but people who are like, look, I have to speak with American or English speaking people in business and I have to work on my dialect. I have to work on my accent.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. I want to get into that in a bit, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so the thing about acting training is that it's really applicable to all parts of life. Like the emotional work helps you be a more aware person and like a person who understands why we do what we do. It helps you in relationships, it helps you at work, it helps you just in life. And then some of the like technical stuff about acting, actor training, it can help in all sorts of areas of your life, communication, business, I don't know, just having that ability to communicate well in different languages,
Right.
Yeah, this is the direction actually about acting that we love to talk a lot about because I came to Mexico and I started to do acting as well. I never did it in Singapore. But sometimes they ask for my profile, so I tried, and then I found it so enlightening. Like it's actually very meditative, because when you're in that role, then you kind of understand that you are before all personalities. You are the being before, and so it's very spiritual for me. And Like
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Yeah.
That and also the practical stuff that you're saying, like how it's so related to life, like I mean, like when the scene starts, you have to perform. You're like the most important thing, and then when the scene ends, the level of importance of whatever's going on to get a shot going is just kind of like so many moving parts,
Yeah.
right? So
many moving parts, and also like what we're talking about right now in my class was we're really trying to get my students kind of open to the understanding that like the idea, the spiritual part of acting, and I think the kind of humanitarian part of acting is like you accept that like all parts of humanity lie in you. So like the evil character or the character who does something that you think you would never do, it's like you have to understand that like people behave in ways because they're driven by their pain or they're driven by their past or whatever it is. And so the idea that I am everyone and everyone is me, I mean, to me, that's very spiritual. And it's a way to understand that you're part of this whole, and then being able to honestly portray that, and some students kind of like, it's a challenge for some students because especially beginners who aren't really ready to accept that the possibility of some heinous act or something lies in them.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to get them to understand is like, but if you want to be an actor, you have to be able to accept that. And then, you don't have to say yes to every role, but I mean, from an explorative point of view or discovery point of view, to be able to play with that and do character exploration. I mean, that's it. It changes the way you look at the world and the way you look at people.
Right. I can imagine your acting classes must be really good.
Yeah,
because you're really digging deep. Yeah.
We have fun. I mean, they're kind of scary, but I think we get into it. I don't pull a lot of punches. Like we go for it.
Right.
I got a question. How do you actually get someone to go to a place where maybe they're kind of scared and they're asking you for help, or they don't really like where the direction of the character, like it's going to a really dark place. How do you?
I mean, I think for a class, it's different than if you're approaching a role. Like if you're approaching a role, you kind of know what's being asked of you in terms of, like what the role. That's my daughter. What the role will require. In class, I've made it very clear. Like, look, guys, we're not pushing any boundaries here. Like, I want you guys to like push yourselves and approach those emotional sort of thresholds. But if there's a boundary that like we're not ready to go and visit that pain, or we're not ready to go and access that part of our own experience to portray this character, like we don't need to do that here. This is not therapy.
Right. This is not therapy. Right.
It's not therapy. Like it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to do that here, and we don't need to do that in front of our classmates. Like I had teachers in my training who did do that, and it's actually not beneficial. It can be quite damaging.
Right.
But I say my one thing that I do in class is I say, look, my only request in the beginning of the class is I just ask that we try it on before we throw it out. So anything that I suggest, just give it a shot before we throw it out. And that's been helpful because I think it helps people say, you know what, let me try first. And if I really don't like it, then we let it go.
That's such a beautiful thing. And I think that's it's like in a way it's kind of like instead of having this or that, it's like it's just kind of like explorative and open, right? Like try it and see if it works, see if you like it, and if you don't, just discard it, right?
Yeah, and
that's a great thing. Yeah,
and I think it makes people have an out, so they understand that like they're not forced to do anything. Obviously they signed up for the class, but it does help them kind of say, you know what, this is a safe space. And I came here to look at this stuff. I came here to do these type of explorations. So they pretty much are going for it. Like I just handed out their scenes, and like their scenes are so good, and they're like not easy. They're not easy scenes, but they're really they're up for it.
Wow. So far, the people that have been coming to your classes, are they? I mean, you said that they are beginners, right? So, but
this round, yeah.
Okay. So, like, I mean, so the beginners in your class, they already had some experience acting in like over here in Mexico?
No, only one person has had some experience. I think he had done like community theater where he's from, but the majority of them No acting experience at all. We have somebody who's like in marketing, and she like wanted to, take acting classes so she can like present to her when she has to do presentations and, help her with those kind of skills. And then I have a yoga teacher. I have an artist, a painter who's like, I'm feeling really like I'm in this creative space in my life, and I'm doing my painting, and now I want to just, I want to go down different creative avenues. So she's in the class. I have a woman from Tepoztlan who's in the class who's just like, I've always wanted to try acting, and I live in Tepos and I miss being in the city. So I just wanted to come and do this. I mean, really, I have people from all sort of walks of life and all corners of the world, really.
That's definitely a great
fun,
testament to acting or the whole profession in general, like how it can, different walks of life, different things, and how it all comes together. Why don't you tell the people a bit about your story, Ryman? Like how did you get into acting in the first place?
So I'm from North Carolina, which is a state in the South of the United States. And then I got into acting when I was pretty young. I think my first kind of start was in like a community theater thing when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11. And I actually didn't like it that much. And then I got to high school, and I was in sports, and I broke my finger, and I couldn't play in softball anymore, and I needed something to do after school. And my drama teacher was like, you should try out for the school play. And I was like, okay, sure. And I did, and it changed the whole trajectory. So basically,
so she saw your reaction when you hurt your finger and everything.
Yeah, like
she
I
saw
told
your
her
reaction,
and I think she kind of saw something in me in my drama class. Right. I think she saw some potential there. And it was kind of like this perfect storm of like, well, I can't do sports anymore. And she she was a really great teacher, and she just sort of said, you know what, you should try this. And I did. And then after that, I was just like, okay, this is the thing that I just felt like in a purpose. Like, when you have moments of like, oh, this is something that I'm really gonna do in my life. Right. And from there I left my school, and I went to a performing arts high school, and I then went and pursued it in college, and then I got my master's, and was in New York doing it.
Right.
Very cool.
You did your master's in acting, in theater as well?
Mm-hmm. I did my master's at the University of San Diego.
Nice.
So then, would ask you, theater or in front of a camera, like which one do you?
I really enjoy doing both. Right now, I'm doing a film here in Mexico, and it's been great to get back in front of the camera. It's a different skill set, really. The techniques are the same, like in terms of emotional work, but obviously, like technical technique for theater is different than camera, and so it's a different kind of muscle that you have to work out a bit. But I'm really enjoying being back in front of the camera. But I love theater. And it's so funny because now that I'm doing my class and I'm doing all the scenes that my students are doing are all from really incredible plays. And, I've just been going back through plays to try and find good scenes, and I've just been missing theater. I really have been thinking about, like, should I do a play here? Maybe I should produce a play here, but we'll see.
Oh, wow. In English?
Yeah.
You know what? Like, I think it would be cool to do kind of like a mix. I've been thinking about
mix would be cool.
We have a theater company that I'd like to plug, if you don't mind. We're called Las Bestias.
Go ahead.
So the theater company is called Las Bestias, and it started in Tulum with one of our leaders, Irving, and he brought it to Mexico City, and he and I kind of teamed up. I knew about it in Tulum, but then when he moved here, we both kind of teamed up, and we decided to start the Mexico City branch of the theater company. And so right now, what we're trying to do is create our own play, and it will be a mix of Spanish and English. So I think that's going to be the next sort of theater production type thing that I do. But eventually I'd like to do a scripted play. I think it would be cool, and try and incorporate, Spanish speaking, English speaking kind of mix. I think that could be really dope.
Right. And on this note, I would like to ask you, like, how do you feel it has been acting here in general, and as compared to like in the US? The one really interesting thing about Mexico, I would say, is like the industry here is really booming. There's like a lot of things happening, and I mean, it's talked about like within the industry itself also, but like I'm not sure what it's like in the US. Of course, LA and Hollywood is just, you know, the main thing in the world, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I can gather, because remember, like I'm still kind of new in the industry here, and I'm also like from the U.S. and I'm like gringa, so my experience in the industry here is a little bit different because my pool is very small. It's much smaller here. So like I think which actually has benefited me to some extent. You know what I mean? Like in the U.S. when I go out for something, I'm going out against, I mean, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of other actresses who look like me, my type, my age, my whatever.
Yeah.
And some with more experience than me. So it's a different level of competition. Whereas here, you know, I don't know how many actresses there are, honestly, of my type and my, you know, my look or whatever it is, English speaking native, but it's definitely smaller than it is in the US. So that's been something that has been an interesting thing to navigate. There's also a lot less roles for me here because the majority of things that are being cast here, even though Mexico City is the center for like Latin American entertainment, it all comes from here. So you have like the headquarters of Netflix for Latin America is here, HBO, same thing, Amazon, same thing. So that's all coming out of Mexico City, but the majority of that content is going to be, you know, largely Spanish speaking or like Latin American based content about Latin America. The thing is that, you know, what I'm finding is that a lot of Latin American content is also content that's dealing with issues about the fact that the US is right there. You know, you have like Narcos, obviously there's English speaking characters in that because it's about the relationship between the two countries in some way. A lot of the work that I go in for, a lot of the projects that I go in for are projects that deal with that. So the first film that I did when I moved to Mexico City was a film about the detention camps that on the border that the children were being placed in and how like absolutely incredibly heinous that was. But this is a story that involves Mexico and the US, right? You have
the conversation going on,
right. And so my character was a character who played a detention agent, like an agent who worked at the detention center. And it was based on a true story. It's a really great film called Torn from Her Arms. But, you know, so there are opportunities for people who are English speaking actors to work, not as much as the US, but they're there. And I would say what I audition for the most are commercials. You're seeing a lot of companies from the US coming to Mexico to shoot commercials. Yeah, lots of commercials. It's much, they pay a lot less here. It's much cheaper to shoot here, I think. And so they're coming here, which is not necessarily so great because, you know, the pay is very, I would say the difference is significant. Yeah. But at the same time, it's work. You know what I mean? And
she just came back from a gig yesterday. Shooting a commercial
I did an extra
for Oreo.
You did?
For Oreo, So
for what?
It was for Oreo
cookies.
And Oreo,
Oreo cookies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say, but anyway, long. It was so long.
So like was it like a lot, like what was the cast like? Was it, because I'm seeing on a lot of the breakdowns or castings that I'm seeing, you know, they're really casting like a really multi-racially. I'm seeing a lot of like castings where they want to find people, like they want to find Asian people, they want to find, you know, Afro like people from Afro they want a lot of
Afro-Latinos,
Afro-Americans. Yeah, was it like that on your set?
Yeah, like basically all of us, like there was only maybe 10 extras, and we all had like alternative looks. Like if the Mexicans, they have like afros, so they were all mixed looking.
Yeah, I think too, like, well, obviously for the US productions, they're really going for like multiracial, multicultural types of castings. And I think even now, like, I think more Mexico is starting to follow suit. You know, I think You used to see in Mexican advertisements, it was a lot of like just very sort of white looking Mexicans. You didn't see a lot
Right.
of
Oh, yeah.
racially mixed. But I think people are starting to kind of be like, no, we need to be inclusive in our casting. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, I think that is the I wouldn't say trend, but like that's the thing right now. Like everything, everywhere, like the different racial ethnicities, they're being represented, and
Yeah.
it's a good
That's
thing.
nice to see. So you mentioned earlier that you kind of your decision to come to Mexico is kind of something that you decided to do to kind of help your art in a way, right? To become a better actor.
I mean, you say you're taking a break, yeah. So yeah, we take it as like
kind of, yeah. I mean, I think if you're an artist, the art lives in you. You know what I'm saying? Like whether you're pursuing it professionally in the industry or not, like it's there. And like anything, sometimes you need to take a break from something to like repair your relationship with it. And so I was in New York and I was going through some personal stuff, and you know, New York is a really hard place to live, and it's especially hard a place to live if you're an artist. You know, it's not the cheapest city in the world. It's hard to keep up with your art and also keep up with the rent. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to do.
For real, yeah.
So I just got like burned out, and I was also going through some personal stuff, and I was like, no, I think I got to get out of here, because if I don't, you know, I had at that point already been in New York for 18 years, and I saw people who should have gotten out and didn't. And I worked with people in restaurants and wherever who should have maybe taken that break. But New York is a hard place to leave as well. It's a hard place to live, and it's a hard place to leave. And so I said, you know what, for my own sanity and well-being and healing, I need to get out of here and go do something else for a while. And if I'm supposed to pursue this as a career, then that it will find me again, and it will find me, and it will be on my terms. So I really just let it go for a while. You know, it doesn't.
Well, that's real gangster. We really respect those kinds of moves, and yes, and how has Mexico or this experience actually changed you? You know, maybe you want to tell us a bit about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I'm older now. I have a kid now. Like everything changes with age and with experience, and like especially with, you know, like having a kid, you just realize like, oh, I had the power all along, but I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like when you're young and you're just hungry and you just want to work and you just want an opportunity and you just want to get put on. You know what I mean? But now it's like my self-worth, my value is not defined by what these casting directors or, you know, whoever they are in the industry who I was looking for a yes from for all those years. Now, like I have my yes. Do you know what I mean? And so what's different is my relationship to the industry, my relationship to the business. You know, like I had somebody call me the other day for a thing, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I don't have the time. I have to be home for my kids' bedtime. It's a no. And they were like, okay, hold up. We'll get back to you and see if we can work around it. Back in the day, I would have never said no. I would have been like, let me figure out a way to make this work so I can, you know, I'll break my back to do the thing. And there's value in that. You know, we call that paying our dues, right? That's what that is. But now my relationship to my art and the pursuit of it professionally is just so much healthier. It's so much, it's so much more fulfilling this way, because now it's like, you know, like I'm not desperate for it. You know what I'm saying? It's
yes, you're not chasing after something.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's well.
It's been a long, it's a long way to get there, but that's fine. You know what I mean? The path is the purpose. The path is what it's all about.
Right.
How you got there.
Yeah, we definitely feel very connected with all the stuff that you're saying.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, like we talk a lot about the healthy ego on this show as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like part of the growth.
Yeah, and I wanna go back a bit, Ben. Yes, for real, right? You mentioned like, okay, back to when you first got into acting, you were into sports first, and then when you got into acting, you know, you it just was like, yeah, this is the thing. Do you think that competitive kind of attack that you need to kind of have playing sports, you think you need that same kind of thing, you know, when you're acting?
That's a good question. I do. I think not for the art itself, but for the business, absolutely. I mean, look, as much as I say that the business can be very toxic, and it can, if you are a person who kind of enjoys a little bit of healthy competition, you can do this thing. You know what I mean? You're going to have rejection. You're going to have people say, no, no, no. But it's those wins. When you get the win, you know what I mean? That's what can drive you. And, you know, I mean, I also think that there's a fair amount of like competition within yourself, like really, I don't know, like getting, how would I explain it? Just kind of like improving yourself as an artist. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's part of it too. In the same way that as an athlete would continue to improve themselves in their skill set for their sport or improve their instrument, right? Like I talk a lot about that in my class actually, and I make a similar comparison between athletes and artists in that like you have your instrument that you're trying to hone, and then you have the skill set of your sport or your skill set of whatever your actual like artistry is, right? So for us, it's actors.
Right.
So how are we building our technique? It's the same thing as a basketball player building their technique. So yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn, and definitely a sense of liking competition to a certain extent, like can be healthy and can make this fun, really.
Fun, yes.
Right. I mean, I guess with the like competitive factor is the goal getting, the willpower, the, you know, focusing on what you want and manifesting it and all that, right?
Yeah, and totally. And I think there's a little bit of like, you know, when you take an L or you don't get it or you get rejected, that has to drive you a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that can't, if that one L destroys you, this is a really tough business. And I've seen a lot of actors, incredibly talented people who they didn't want to live that life. You know what I mean? And like, fair enough. But if you happen to be a person who's like, oh, really? Oh yeah, it's a no? Okay. Watch me.
Right.
Watch me.
Yeah. And they take up the challenge of the no, right? Yeah.
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 So then comes another question, like talking about legendary actors, right? Your Al Pacinos, your Robert De Niro's. Do you think these are people who have kind of like, you know, gone through that? Obviously, they've gone through all of this, but they reach a point where, yes, obviously they reach a point where they put themselves first. But then now we're talking about something else. We're talking about like deep competition, no? Like we're talking about doing this for years. We're talking about skill sets. So it's like a whole different kind of, it's a different level, right? Wouldn't you agree? Like
oh, it's a different
stratosphere.
It's a different stratosphere.
Right.
I mean, the people who are in that stratosphere, you know, it's so funny because when you're a young actor starting out, that stratosphere is what you think you're going for. Most young actors, right? Like you want to be the next so and so, the next fill in whoever your favorite top tier actor is. What you realize once you get into the business is that stratosphere, that talk about 1%, you know what I mean? Like that is a very, I'm not saying don't chase your dreams. I would never say that, right? But it starts to become, you start to see the reality of, okay, like what it would take for me to get there. You know, there's an incredible amount of luck that comes into people who enter into that space. You know what I'm saying? Like you have stories of people who, you know, got discovered somehow. They were in line at a bank. I mean, that is a reality for those people, but that is not a real reality for the majority of your everyday working actor. You know what I'm saying? That's what the strike is about in the United States right now. Right. Because people think that if you're on TV acting, then you must be a millionaire. And it's like, that's not it. We are working paycheck. You know, the majority of actors are not in that stratosphere. The majority of working actors are people who live in very middle class or lower middle class tax brackets. They're working check to check. They're on unemployment in between jobs, especially theater actors. I mean, don't get me started. So the thing about people who are in that stratosphere, I mean, it's really important. I love listening to stories of people who got there, you know, like because some people entered in a way that was really lucky, and then some people entered in after. I mean, John Hamm, for example, I was just watching a show with him in it. You know, he bartended until he was 45 years old, and then he booked Mad Men. You know, I don't know if you guys know the show, but it's like,
I read about him actually.
And those kind of stories are, I think, those kind of stories are really beneficial because, you know, that's more of, I think, the path that people who are kind of your average everyday actor, that's a path that could be a reality for them. I'm not saying that you can't get lucky and get discovered and blah, 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 but I think actors have to understand that, like, you know what, focus on the work, focus on paying those dues, because if you're focused on just jumping into that 1% stratosphere, you are going to be wildly disappointed.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense, because what you're looking at is 1%. They didn't got there on your own path. It's a very, right, each one has your own path and stuff, and if you're trying to just jump, it's like, yeah, you know, it's just like perception, right? Like
right. And the thing about those actors, I mean, look, those people, so many of those people, they're there because they are that good. And so we can look at those actors and say, my God, I want to strive for that. That actor, you know, we need our inspiration. We need our muses, you know? But yeah, I think
this is back to that thing that you were saying about having that competitive thing. Like, okay, I'm an actor. I have, you know, I'm a new actor and I want to make it, you know, and that drive, and that is really interesting. And I guess like that's looking at these people, like it's like you can get inspiration from their stories and stuff, right? Like there's this one a clip that I just saw, and I just subscribed to Sylvester Stallone's YouTube channel right after this video. Yeah, and it was him talking about how he got the audition for a role of Mugger in I forgot the name of the movie, but it's a Woody Allen movie. And him and this other dude, they try out for the role first time, and then Woody Allen says something like, "You're not intimidating enough." So and then, you know, dismisses them, and then these two dudes in the metro, you know, in New York, talking about it and stuff. Not intimidating enough. What can we? So they just had this brilliant moment of just like, you know, like, let's just do it, you know, just go all the way. And they just got some grease. They put grease all over the stuff and everything, changed their look, went back to the audition place, kind of snuck up on Woody Allen, kind of snuck up on him, and just sort of like, is this intimidating enough and stuff? And then the rest is history.
And he got
like,
the part. And I'm sure he got the part.
Yeah. And so what is that? Is that luck? Is that 1%? Is that that's just that's you know
that's risk. And I talk to my students about that. Like, you know, so much of the work. So like when you're actually doing the work, right? When you're on set or you're in a play, this idea that, you know, the actors who are the most, I think, interesting and make the most impact are people who take risks. And usually actors people who take risks in their work are people who take risks in life. So that was risky for him to do that, right? Like it could have gone one of two ways. It could have gone, they're going to love it and they're going to cast me, or they'll remember me for next time, or this guy's insane, get him out of the office.
Right.
You know
I go anywhere.
Completely.
But he, and I think to a certain extent, you know, the industry does require that kind of level of like all or nothing. Like, let's do it. You know, I'm gonna throw it all in, and you know, I'm gonna risk it all. And he did that, and it paid off. And I think, you know, there's a lot of stories like that. You know, you have, I think I was listening to something that Jennifer Lawrence, I mean, she couldn't get an audition for Winter's Bone. She flew out to LA. They wouldn't see her. She knew they were going to be in New York. She flew to New York. I mean, she basically like stalked them and made them give her an audition. You know, again, it would have been like, somebody call the police. Like, this girl is you know, stalking us or whatever, but it paid off. And I think, you know, those kind of stories are inspiring because it does kind of make you, it kind of gives you permission in a way to be like, well, they did it. Like, I mean, obviously within reason, you know, you don't want to scare anybody, but you know, a little risk, no risk, no reward.
No risk.
Right.
No risk, no reward. Yeah.
So let's get back to like, you know, that you mentioned that you are teaching, that your last class you taught a lot of beginners. And like, I'm just interested to know, like, so do you think like from your class, you know, they have not gone to like college for acting and all that, like, can they build up from your class to like become a very serious actor, or like classes like yours, because
That's a good
you see, I
question.
have because I have like friends who have been like studying for years acting, and then like I'm telling them that I'm doing this for fun here in Mexico, and they're like, what, seriously, you're just going in without classes and everything? And then like I just want to talk about how accessible like your classes are going to help, like different foreigners who come to Mexico. They have like they're trying new things, and they're like, I know so many of them who have like only starting doing acting here because their profile is unique and they're asked for. Yeah,
that's a really, really good question, because there are a lot of actors out there, people that we know, names that we know who didn't go to school for acting. But I think what those actors would tell you is, even after they got into the business and they started booking work, they started taking classes. Most people at some point say, you know what? I need a teacher. I need a coach. They get some sort of guidance in terms of their technique, because like any art form, you can have natural talent, that's necessary. You got to have some natural talent, right? You got to have some sort of affinity, natural ability to go in and do this work. And that will take you to a certain distance. But you will get a role somewhere and you say, I am not equipped. I don't know how to approach this. You know what I mean? I need tools. I need technique to be able to get into this, especially if you want to do theater, because theater is a whole other ballgame. And it's like, you have to be able to use your voice in a way that you've never used your voice before. You have to understand things about your body that you've never had to deal with before, because you're on stage trying to communicate a story to 500 people. You know what I mean? And then on camera, you might go from the theater and try to go on camera. The first time I ever did a commercial on camera, the director called me over to the playback and was like, watch the playback. And I was like so big, and she was like, you're too big for this medium. You have to quiet it. You have to act here. You're acting all here. And the camera is like, it's too much. Right. That was my first lesson. And what did I do after that? I went straight into on-camera classes, because I had not had that yet. It was before I was in grad school. I was 22 years old, So I would say to people who are thinking about acting, get into class. I started this class because I wanted to be back in class. I'm teaching the class, but I'm learning so much even through my teaching. Right. Like any skill set, any art form, anything, you are honing your craft all the time. And so if you want to approach this as a beginner, or you want to get back into it, you've had some experience, or you've been working in your industry, wherever you come from, it's always valuable to be in the class, right? Like there's always stuff to be practicing, to be oh yeah, I forgot that part of this. I mean, there's things that I'm teaching that I'm even like, because I'm doing auditions, I'm putting myself on tape a lot. And so it's been interesting for me teaching the class and then going back into my own auditions and go, I didn't even do what I'm teaching my students. Let me go back. Let me focus in on these technical aspects that I'm teaching my students, and yet I forgot. What I mean?
That's what I was thinking, like going for these classes will help you to focus better, because like sometimes when you're acting or doing an audition or whatever, you get distracted like in the scene or like out of the scene, kind of thing.
Oh,
so like
absolutely.
classes will really help.
Totally.
I had one class here that like when I was doing a role they sent me to, and I enjoyed it so much. It was really fun. Yeah, I think acting classes are so fun.
Yeah, acting classes really fun. Yeah.
They're fun. Most of the people in my class are not going to pursue this professionally. They might want to go in for a commercial here and there, but most of these people are not people who are like, I'm trying to be a professional actor. But most of them want to do it because they're curious and they want to have fun. And I think what they're finding, we're in our 5th week now, I think what they're finding is like, wow, these are techniques that I can apply to my life. Because acting is the study of human behavior. It's the study of humanity. It's the study of relationships. It's the study of, why we do what we do. And that you can apply that every day.
Yeah. So you said this is your 5th class. So is it like a continuous class plan, or at any point it is?
So once you join the class, you commit to the 6 weeks. This round we're doing 6 weeks. We're in our 5th week. So we're in our 4th week. We have 2 more weeks. So yeah, I mean, the thing about an acting class is that you can't really just like drop in, drop out. You know what I mean? It's not like a yoga class where it's like, oh, I'm going to come in today and not come tomorrow. Like it's a sequential lesson plan. So it's like, we're building on what we did the week before. We're building until we get to scene work, especially for beginners. I mean, I think once I do if I do a course, I mean, I want to plan another session, but maybe do like an acting 2 or an acting 3 for people who are a little bit more well-versed. And then we might just jump into scene work and do some like review of technique, but I don't have to start at the basics with those people who have experience. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I kind of put the class out there to see like who was going to respond. And I got a lot of response from people. And then of course, people are excited at first and then they don't want to like sign up, and that's cool. But the people who ended up committing this round ended up being people who didn't have a lot of experience. So I just tailor-made the class as a beginner course. And then we'll see what happens. Like if maybe they want to sign up for the 2nd round of classes, which will be an acting 2 course. And then we'll build on what we did in the 1st course. Maybe other people who haven't taken the class before, but have other experience will want to join that class. So I'm kind of feeling it out as we go and seeing, who's out there. It's a big city. I don't know all the people who are out there who are interested. We'll find out.
Right. And I really think it's so helpful because there's no English acting class. And I'm sure that, like, I mean, for example, personally, like that's the one that I would like to go for because, learning in Spanish, I would just be like confused.
And also, you mentioned like you prefer not to use Spanish to communicate or to teach because there's certain like subtle stuff that you want to communicate, and
I think it would be. I mean, I think it's hard because I think if I don't think I would be as good of a teacher in Spanish. That's really the gist of it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We're doing English speaking scenes. We're doing, I don't know, acting is such a personal performance art that like I said, unless you are somebody who's totally bilingual, or has like a sensibility of the language where you can just like, you think in Spanish, right? Like, I think it would be hard to teach in another language unless you had that dexterity, with words and language and text to teach it. So I just said, I'm gonna try and teach in English and see what's up. And
well, anyway, what's missing here because I mean, there's going to be a lot of Spanish classes, Spanish acting classes already. Anyway, so you can have your own specialized class, right? And with people who are especially looking for this.
And I think too, like, I'm from New York City, so it's a really international city, and there are, classes, Spanish speaking, this type of course, or, there's like Mandarin classes. I mean, there's all types of things, courses, types of classes that are available in New York City for people who speak different languages, just because those people exist there. And I think what we're starting to see in Mexico City, what I'm learning, is that Mexico City is slowly but surely becoming a city like that. So you have the need for different classes for people who speak different languages. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there are also a lot of Spanish speaking actors over here that are like already very experienced in acting and all that, but like who might also just want to go into like an English acting class just to get more. I mean, they could be fluent, but over here they don't get to practice English that much, and maybe they have an English speaking role and they just need a refresher.
I have 2 women in my class right now. One of them is actually not an actor, but she's a yoga teacher and a personal assistant. And the other one is she's taken a lot of acting classes in Spanish. She's Mexican. And I asked her, like, why do you want to take a class in English? And she said, I love taking acting classes, and I wanted to see, she speaks English. But she was just kind of curious about, like, what would it be like to, improve my English through this class, and also to approach this art form through this other language that I speak. And I thought that's so cool that she, that she would have the sort of awareness and the audacity to do that. It's so, acting is hard. Acting class is hard. So to do it in a language that's your second language, that's takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. But it will really expand your repertoire, what your expressions and all that.
1,000%. And they even told me, they're like, because sometimes I'll say to them, like, or to this one girl, like, let me know because I can talk fast, and we're speaking in English, and sometimes I'll check in with her and just say, like, look, if you need me to, like, slow down, or, like, if I say something that's like a colloquialism of, like, English speakers, like, if you're not getting it. And she said to me, like, no, actually, like, sometimes it's helping my English just to be in a room where everybody's speaking English, and the intonation, the inflection. I mean, there's so much that goes into language. I think somebody said that it's like that actually language is like 10% the words, and it's 90% everything else. Inflection, tone, things like that. Body language, facial expressions. I mean, there's so much that goes into how we communicate. So being immersed in that environment is definitely helpful for them, right? Yeah, definitely. I think so.
I mean, yeah.
So we have only like a couple of minutes left. Would you like to say anything to summarize, or to, just put some last words?
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate because there are a bunch of stuff that we wanted to get into also, but time has run out. So
don't worry. I would just say that, like, if anybody out there is, like, curious about acting, or even just wants to work on, even if you're not a native English speaker and you just want to work on your English, you just want to do something creative. I mean, acting class is about all of those things, so hit me up. Come check us out.
Yeah.
Right, super cool. Like, we will send all our friends who are interested to pursue this, like, your way.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. And okay, so I'm Celestine Angel.
I'm Isaac Rakesh.
And we have Ryman Sneed with us, and we're here on the ADR Networks, That Foreign Show.
Activating
your senses, and we're signing out.
Peace.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ryman.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you to all who joined us here on That Foreign Show. It's been awesome. I'm Celestine Angel.
And I'm